My name is Benji Kreckman. I am a fantasy author, and in this video, as well as a couple others I'll be posting throughout the week, I'm going to be showing you how a fantasy author does his fantasy characters' exercises. Now, I'm not going to lie, this is no easy feat. There are a lot of things we're going to have to deal with on the fantasy side and on my side. What's on my side? Let's start there, and then let's deal with the fantasy character end of things so we can understand how we're going to do this. On my side, I work a full-time job. This is not my full-time job yet. I like writing fantasy. I've published fantasy books. It takes a lot of work to go full-time, especially, you're trying to do it independently. It takes a lot of work both ways, but I'm going to build my own marketing wheel here as I go. So that's something I just have to kind of face up to and deal with. What does that mean? How does that impact exercises? Well, writing is pretty sedentary. So is sitting behind a desk all day. And so my day has a lot of sitting in it. My commute, believe it or not, I don't unicycle to work. I sit in a car. When I'm doing my job, I'm sitting most of the time. And when I'm writing, of course, I'm sitting. And so to overcome that, I have to find time to exercise. This would be true in a fantasy character's life as well. Most of, like you got your farm boy, like the Aragon scenario. Yeah, sure, they're doing work on the farm. You got that going for them. Good for them. I'm trying to think of a character that breaks that bend. Let's use Will Treaty from the Ranger's Apprentice. He's just like an orphan boy. He doesn't have a workout facility immediately available to him in book one. Never throughout the book does he have a workout facility available to him. He starts using a bow. You don't need to know the plot of that book to get what I'm saying here, I don't think. So that's one. Two, budget. I also don't have a state-of-the-art workout facility. I can't afford to buy extremely expensive meals that will get me high degrees of the right macros. I have to kind of be smart with that, which you can be. You can be smart with it. I just started eating the right macros last year, just started figuring out how to do it maybe 8 months ago. And it is the only reason that I've been able to make it this far with my exercises. But I'm not a bodybuilder. I'm not going to weigh 265 pounds and be pure meat, That's not me. Most of the stuff we're going to be doing, and this is the fantasy end of it, right? These characters don't have a state-of-the-art gym. And so 95% of these exercises are going to be completed in a small space. For me to prove that I'm doing that, I'm limiting myself to a 6.5 by 4 foot space. Now I'm 6'3", so it's already really tight when I start doing push-ups and those kinds of things. A fantasy character probably could find more space than that, but maybe you're sitting there and you're alone in your apartment. You're I want to get as fit as a fantasy character, but I've got 600 square feet and late stage capitalism has bit me in the butt. And I get it. 6.5 by 4 feet. Cool. We can do this. They can do it. They do it in those stories. It's incredible what they overcome. We can overcome this. 2, 80% of the exercises I'm going to be doing throughout this series have to be body weight exercises. Most fantasy characters don't have Smith machines. Most fantasy characters don't have weight racks. Usually what they're doing is push-ups, squats, pull-ups, crunches, right? And I remember as a kid feeling really frustrated by that because in high school and past that, in college, I could do so many push-ups, but I was not getting any bigger. I was this just does not work. Well, we're going to talk about that a little bit as we go, but there's things to do with form and there's things to do with eating, right? There are ways to get bigger doing the same kind of basic exercises, just by removing a little bit of structure and support as you go. The third, by the way, I'm 210 pounds, so 212 pounds. I'm just kind of giving an even number. But to do bodyweight exercises is going to be a load, and I'm grateful for that. This is relative strength, right? So for me, if I'm doing one-arm push-ups, that means that for me, I'm pushing anywhere between 130 to 160 pounds up and down with each arm, which is pretty cool. But if you're a different weight, it might be a little different because it's about 60 to 75% of your total body weight. But my point is, it's relative to your body. You're going to get really in tune with your body. This is very much like a Nightwing type build. If you know the DC comics, Nightwing is an acrobat. He's able to use his body as his weapon. 3, the workouts themselves must achieve hypertrophy. That's when your muscles tear so that they rebuild, they go back stronger. You have to rest to let that happen. You can't just exercise infinitum. There's junk food. There is junk exercise as well. And so there's got to be 48 hours of rest in between each kind of exercise, which is part of why we're breaking up these exercises as it is, and we're doing them as a series throughout the week, but they must bring you closer to a fantasy build. Essentially, hypertrophy is what's going to help you do that. 4, there can be no more than 2 minutes between the start of each set. So if I start doing push-ups right now in my next set is also push-ups. However much time it takes me to finish that set, then the time between that to my next one is whatever it took me minus, 2 minutes, whatever, 2 minutes minus whatever it took me. And so it's just like a fact we have to deal with. If I spend, I don't know, let's say a minute doing my first set of push-ups, then okay, I've got a minute of rest before I do my next set. And then fifth and finally, we want all of the motions to be controlled. So let's start the exercise. Let's talk about it. Okay, Fitbit, let's go. Start the exercise. What I'm doing here, I start with the hardest kinds of exercises because I'm just going to get more tired as I go. And I'm trying to get good at one-arm push-ups. I wouldn't say I'm necessarily good at them yet, but I'll do 2 sets of them to start off my push exercises. The first round I do 5, the second I do 4, and I just kind of give what I've got on each arm and move on from there. After that, I'm going to bust out into my pull-ups. 95%, I think. 95% have to be done in the 6.5 by 4 foot space. Here's that 5%, okay? I have a pull-up bar that hangs above one of the door frames in my house, and I use that to do my push-ups. I don't have a spot to just magically start floating in that 6.5 by 4 foot space. Although I want to say again, we're trying to work out like fantasy characters, and it's highly conceivable that a fantasy character could find the branch to a tree, something to hang off of, right? And do pull-ups. I've done pull-ups off of a tree before. It works. It's the same kind of idea. If it's nice outside and you want to go do that, do it. Just, come down gently. Pick a good branch. Don't go all the way up to the tree to start doing pull-ups, right? Like, not a good idea. But I do 3 sets of pull-ups. On my sheet it says 3 by 10. I almost never get there. 3 by 8 is more like it. Towards the end, 3 by 6, 3 by 5. It happens. It just depends on the day. And then I'm back into doing my push-ups. Now I'm doing what we call diamond push-ups. What this does is you bring your hands in towards your body. It isolates your arms so that your arms are really going to feel it. And I put on this vest. I'm working on this still. I've gotten pretty good at diamond push-ups, which is exciting to me. But I want to, continue to get stronger. And so this vest, I think, is 15, maybe it's 18 pounds. I'll have to ask my wife, honestly. I should have markered it on the vest when we got it, but it's either 15 or 18 pounds. And I just start doing push-ups. I'll do 25 with the diamond push-up form. I'll take it off. Next set, my goal is to hit 10 without the vest. So I just go for 10 diamond push-ups. That's usually the hardest set, in the bunch, because I don't think I'm more gassed than I am in that moment. Maybe for dips, because dips are at the very end. Dips are brutal. But anyways, I'll do that. Afterwards, I will go and I will do narrow push-ups. And so I'm still trying to get my arms, but I'll give my chest a little room to help out. Usually, I'll do 20 reps on this set. And usually these are much easier than the previous set was, just because you're lighter. Your form is opened up so that you can support yourself more. And by the way, I had said earlier feeling frustrated because I would do so many push-ups. I do 60, 70 push-ups in a row. I'm I'm not getting stronger. I never go back the next week and I'm like, oh, cool, now I'm bigger and stronger. Well, changing your form does make a difference, right? Usually your chest in push-ups isn't the weak link. At least that's been my experience, and that's what I've read up on. And so if you move your arm inward, you're forcing your arm to engage more all the way to the diamond push-up. I would say diamond push-ups are key to unlocking one-arm push-ups. At least for me, they were. And so if you want to get to that point, that's your road. You just go inward, inward, inward. And then when you want to start working on one-arm push-ups, take one of those arms and start sliding it out so that it can't help this arm as much. So, okay, we do our narrow push-ups. Good job, us. We're now moving on to a hand weight. This is our first hand weight of the entire exercise, so please make note of that. Throughout the week, my goal is to hit an 80% body weight ratio, because for the majority of fantasy characters, I would say, with the humble origin story, you're not going to have, Luke Skywalker's not got a weight rack. You know what I mean? So trying to be sensitive to that. He might have a hay bale, right? Maybe he has a 60-pound hay bale, which sounds really hard to kind of grip. But in this case, I'm giving myself that exception. I'm using the 60-pounder to do some lawnmowers. I'm going to do 2 sets on each side of 10. This, honestly, is kind of my break moment. I've been doing so many push-ups. I'm trying to give myself, this is the last of my tricep before I give myself a break and transition into lateral raises. Lateral raises are great. I love these things. This is how you get the boulder shoulder that they talk about when characters have that T frame. Again, think Nightwing. He looks kind of like a T at different points, right? his shoulders are large, and that's because of lateral raises, whether he knows it or not, whether his writers know it or not. That's how he's getting that fantasy build. That's how you can get that fantasy build. Or if you're writing a fantasy character, because again, that's a big drive for me to understand this. This is how they're doing it. This is what it feels like for me. Growing up, I would always do like these exercises that were sports, right? Like I really enjoyed doing the 2 mile in track because I got to feel a little bit of like, what's it like for a character just to sprint infinitum? I'd be playing video games. I'd play like Skyrim. I'd play, honestly, I remember Assassin's Creed Black Flag so well. The guy could just swim and swim and swim. I'm like, what is that like? And I joined the swim team and I did some distance swimming and was like, oh, it's awful. You know? Oh man, no, swimming is amazing. I've loved swimming. 3 guys made Olympic trial times the year I did swim team in high school though, and it was like way too intense. I was like, whoa, okay, this has been a good run. I now know. I'm good. Thank you. Also, I should have been eating right. Wasn't eating right. Didn't know it. Anyways. Okay, continuing with the exercise. We've been doing our lawnmowers. We did our lateral raises. I do 4 sets of 10 with the lateral raises. I'm using 20-pound weights for that. And now we're back to body weight. Again, trying to keep majority body weight. My goal is to go over 80% in my push body weights. I'll do, I think, entirely body weight for my legs, for my abs, but bicep, we're going to have a mixture of body weight and hand weight. So I'm kind of leaving myself some leisure for that. That'll be in a separate video. Hang tight. We'll get there. Right now, we're trying to give you push. That's your tricep. That's your chest. We're going to get some back in there, obviously. And as I said, we're going to engage a lot of shoulders, a lot of front shoulders, a lot of side shoulder, a little back shoulder. Should be good stuff. If you don't have weights, that's no problem. This can be a body weight exercise. You just hold your arm out, right? Arm circles can be killer. Try them. After that, I'm finishing my exercise. I'm doing 2 sets of 10 on this dip rack. I think it's conceivable the fantasy characters could do something like this. You find 2 barrels, you find 2 chairs. I used to do on chairs before I had the dip rack, right? You find countertops. There's so many options, so many places you can do dips. They're so good for you. They really do get your arms well. I feel like it gets right here, like the center of your chest, weirdly enough. But I try and go up and down. Try not to tilt in too much. I don't want to assume like a push-up form while I'm doing it. And that is the push exercise. Now I realize certain fantasy characters have super strength and they can do a myriad more things. But for the average fantasy character, how are they training on these islands? How are they getting fit enough to do these things? I think they're doing a lot of what we call calisthenics, a lot of body weight exercises. And this has been my way to figure that out. This has been my way to kind of overcome that scenario where it's like, hey, what do? Remove yourself, or keep yourself in a fantasy scenario, or put yourself in our scenario, right? Where it's like, maybe I don't make enough money to have a good gym membership. Maybe I don't have a lot of space. Maybe I don't have the money to like buy a bunch of weights. Even me, like you'll see I have a bunch of weights. I've collected those over the last, 10, 12 years. And you'll notice they're not the same kind of weight. My 20-pound weights, I've got one that's like all in motion. I've got one that's like a rusted one I got handed down to me. I do have a couple Pelotons that I found at TJ Maxx. Those things are crazy expensive, by the way. Look up like what a Peloton weight goes for. I got mine for like cheap, like less than $1 per pound. Sweet stuff. So grateful for it. It's okay though. It's okay if you can't afford those things. I get it. It's okay if those things aren't a priority. The majority of this is body weight exercises that a fantasy character could do to get strong, that we can do to get strong. And then if you're writing a fantasy story, that you can do to better understand what it's like to exert yourself if you're that character and write those characters a little bit better. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. This is a fun series for me. This is something that I've worked hard on to make happen. I'm very proud of how far I've come, and I'm excited to see what kind of video I can make on this in the year to come, right? Like in a year's time. So guys, make sure to like and tell me what parts of these videos you did enjoy in the comments. Make sure to subscribe to follow along with this journey and other fantasy journeys we go on, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks so much. Bye.